Let's start with Inter.
All right.
Um, I I've kind of been back in Liverpool's going to go through. Where what I'm trying to figure out how competitive will Inter make this? Because I think that they have the ability to make this closer than people think. Um, De Vrij, if he's back by then, I don't know how long he's out for. Um, Liverpool has that pressing style, right? And how do we get at Inter? We press them. All right. So in that instance, it's a bad matchup. With the existing back three, it's definitely a bad matchup for Inter, because you don't have Bastoni to an extent has good technique and can pass and can help get the team out of trouble, and can strike some long passes where Liverpool may have to drop off and respect him a little bit, but they're not going to give that same respect to Skriniar. They're not going to give that same respect to D'Ambrosio. De Vrij has some really good passing range to him from that position. So if you got two of them back there, that may alter Liverpool's plans and how they play. Or Liverpool might just say, "Hey, this is how we play. This is how we're going to play against everybody. We're going to just come after them and take our chances." You have that element too, and just say because we have one of the best defenders in the world back there that can win any aerial balls on any long balls, that can be a presence against the Dzeko, for example. If Dzeko plays with his back to target, among things like that. So that's the one area that I think gets quite intriguing to me. I think that, like I said, I think Liverpool will go through. I think this will be the end of the line for Inter after the round of 16. It is a really difficult draw for them. But if they can find a way to break that press with their passing, if De Vrij's fit, if Bastoni's fit, and if they can hit some passes from those positions and break that press, Inter get very, very dangerous over these two games. And that's something that people should keep a very, very close eye on, because there's a couple guys back there that are capable of doing it. But if De Vrij's not back there, big trouble for Inter.
George is asking in Champions League, do they go extra time than penalty kicks?
Yes, there's no away goals rule anymore. So after 90 minutes or, after 180 minutes, if it is tied, you're going to extra time. So, and then if it's still tied, it goes to penalties.
Yeah. This is going to be a heck of a matchup between Liverpool and Inter. This isn't the Liverpool that won the Champions League, but they're very damn good.
Yeah.
And you mentioned it. We know Inter's weaknesses in the past and even current is pressing them, and they play Liverpool. They play the gegenpressing style, the rock and heavy metal, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And I agree. If they can find a way to break that press, that's going to bode well for them. Liverpool's attack is obviously very, very difficult. One of the best in the world, that trio. And their midfield, where I think they can be had, is their midfield is okay. They have some really good players and some not as great. And the defense can be had as well. I think Inter will have to dominate the midfield with Brozovic and Barella. The wing backs will have to help out tremendously the back three. It'd be nice to have De Vrij back, right? And they're going to have to live and die by the counterattack. Use Lautaro, lose Alexis. Obviously, Dzeko will need to be in the mix as well. And the speed on the wings is what's going to get them. You have to get them on the counterattack. You need to break that press, first of all. And that's going to be the key to opening up the counterattack. Can they do it? I don't know. Inzaghi's done some amazing things, with Lazio and now Inter. If someone's going to do it, it's going to be him, right? It's going to be tight. I think it's going to be very, very close. I can see a scenario where Inter wins this. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say Inter shock most people outside of Serie A and get a narrow victory over Liverpool over two legs.
Really?
It's gonna have to be a masterclass from Inzaghi and that whole team. And I think they have the players to do it.
At left wing back. I can't see that happening unless he really thinks he can.
Yeah.
He can put because Alexander-Arnold can be a liability defensively.
Yes.
on the tackle and in those situations where Perisic can put Alexander-Arnold under a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
But if you do that and you leave Salah wide open in that flank and mainly 1v1 with Bastoni,
Yeah.
that's a huge
Nightmare.
problem. I mean, if
Yeah.
you're going to go ahead and take your chances with Perisic, I almost feel like a guy like Vidal is going to have to play in that spot in the midfield where he can drop back and he can provide some cover and give some help, to Bastoni, so he's not caught in those 1v1 situations, because you can't get that cover from the rest of the center backs because they're going to have to be occupied by whether it's Jota or, Mane and guys like that.
Yeah.
And then Michael saying Mane and or Jota running at Skriniar sounds like a problem, too slow. Then the other side with Salah. Yeah.
Skriniar, I think I trust Skriniar more than anyone on the back defense one-on-one. I've seen him lately, and he's been doing very, very well. Doesn't mean he's not slow. He can be beat. Anyone can be beat one-on-one. But of that back three, even at their best, I think Skriniar is the best at that one-on-one because he seems to angle himself really well. He's very good at the pivot when it goes inside to outside. But those wingers are a nightmare, Salah and Mane. And then obviously you throw in Jota in the mix as well, and even Firmino if he's playing. It's going to be difficult. And if they can get defensively a team effort with the wing backs helping back, dropping back, and find a way to break that press, like we mentioned, there's a chance, there's an opportunity. They can live and die by the counter. They have the pace to do it. I mean, if Dumfries or maybe even Darmian's out there and maybe Perisic or whoever's on that left wing, it's going to have to be masterclass all the way around. It's not if any kind of errors either way. If Inzaghi doesn't get a spot on, it's Liverpool's. But I think this Inter team is healthy at the moment, and based on health, I think they can go toe to toe with Liverpool in the narrowest of margins. They can get it. I think I'm going to go on a limb.
The other thing to the Skriniar side of it. Thanks, Mo. The other thing to the Skriniar side of it is that these wingers for Liverpool, they're not quintessential take-on guys. I mean, at least Mane is. And I mean, Salah will what he'll do is he'll run at you and he'll try to cut in. Okay. Mane is kind of, he plays with power, and he's going to run and he's going to try to maybe, get off the ball, get in behind, maybe make runs behind Skriniar when Skriniar is, paying more attention to the ball and they can get balls into him that way. Mane's not going to take people on and beat, he's capable of beating people 1v1. It's not something that he frequently goes to. He's more of a positioning guy. He's going to try to catch you when you're out of position and things like that. Where Salah is probably a little more of the take-on guy where Bastoni is going to need a little bit of help. I think you can take your chances with even Darmian. If you pull him all the way back to try to help deal with Mane, and now you've got Skriniar and De Vrij or Skriniar and D'Ambrosio, whoever it is, they can kind of, take turns, passing off Jota and at the same time supporting which flank the ball is on. So those will be some of the things that Inzaghi is going to have to think of. Probably.
And don't forget about this. If De Vrij is healthy, right? You have two, and I guess you can throw Skriniar in the mix too. Between De Vrij and Bastoni, they're good at the long ball. They can break that press with a long ball pass to either Lautaro or Alexis or whomever who's running down the flank, and that could be a way to break the press. But can they handle the press? That's going to be the biggest thing for me, and it's going to be an interesting battle. I mean, it's going to be a tactical wonder class to watch. I'm going to definitely watch both games, intently because the best tactic is going to win, and who's going to outdo the other one. It's going to be Klopp versus Inzaghi in this one. It's going to be brilliant.
Yep. And to Mo's point, I just think Liverpool's midfield's better, and I think that's what's going to get them through. Thiago,
you think?
Has been huge for them back there. In that midfield. Jordan Henderson is starting to flash some form, and you occupy. I mean, these are two guys that if you occupy yourselves enough with the wingers, with whoever they play out striker, those guys get into the spaces much like Inter do. Right? Yep. You worry about those two forwards, who's sneaking up, Barella, right? Or Çalhanoğlu. And you're leaving the spaces behind for them. So
do we think the midfield wins the game? Wins the two legs?
I think that's why I've got Liverpool going through. I just think that their midfield is better than Inter's.
I think that's why I give a slight vintage Inter. I'm slightly over it with Inter, but it'll be interesting.
Yeah. And I think that's where it's going to get edged out. I think I can see something in the neighborhood of a score draw at the San Siro. But then I think at Anfield, Liverpool win it by a couple of goals. Maybe a 3-1 kind of result.
San Siro needs to be rocking, because Anfield will.
Yep.
I'm sure
Yep.
it will be. I'm sure it will be. But
yep,
man, 2 fantastic stadiums to have 2 games. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, those are going to be two.
Oh my
Those are going to
goodness.
be two entertaining games. That is for sure.